What's up, chat? Quite right. Quite right. Can't be late if you arrive exactly when you're supposed to. I suppose that's my life philosophy or something along those lines. Something about wizards. Um, wizards. I was about to be a bit rude there. Um, yeah, so when? It is Dadzig time, you're absolutely right. How are we all this evening? Hello, Acrobat Snail. First time chat. Nice to see you. I'm streaming right now. Can I get this bloody mic clipped on? How's that? Yes, you can sub now, Imogen. I made it. I made the grade. I'm quite cozy here, yes. I've had a bit of a long day. I'm not feeling 100%, a little under the weather. So, um, thank you, Imogen, and thank you all to all those people who subscribed and um, paid for, gave gifts on Saturday. Much appreciated. I'm still pretty rubbish at naming everybody, so am I fed and watered? Prickly triangle. I am fed and watered, yes. And I've got some tea here. Hey, Son Moore, first time chat, nice. Mm. Oh, yeah, I'm a bit sick, and did I do photosynthesize today? Did I get in the sun? I didn't get much in the sun, no. To be fair, well, I'm hoping to get soon. I'm trying something different, which is taking a lot of garlic tonight, and I'm going to be pretty stinky tomorrow. And I'll be. Did the shame from Crusader Kings 3 stream make you sick? Um, I don't think there was any shame in that. We did the best we could. Were you watching, Alison? No, it was very unfortunate. I mean, that big battle, I think. Oh yeah, garlic sweats, absolutely, CEO. Um, Alison, that battle was well, it had to take place, and their commander was just much better. So I think maybe we could have held off. I don't know. But there it is. Why don't skeletons fight each other? They don't have the guts. Is this dad joke time tonight? Um, Garlic is good for a lot of stuff. When things go wrong, it keeps it interesting. Tis true. Yeah, I like Crusader Kings. Yeah, just need to find a computer I can play it on. I think I probably have to have a go at like learning it before I try to play it because that would look like a disaster. Hey, Chromanyoma. Hello, first time chat. What did you write yourself? I have a dad joke, but it's only funny if you know about technology and IT. Go for it. Let's have it. uh, I have to try and remember some of these. Um, why did the stick of memory fail its exam? Because it was so dim. Yeah, that this is you're talking to the wrong audience, I think. Um, the shame was for Logan, not for me. No shame for you. Well, I mean, he was following a lot of my advice, to be fair. Why couldn't Dracula's wife get to sleep? Because of his coffin. Okay. Apparently needs a strongish computer. Right, okay. Well, I might have a solution. This one took me a sec, 'cause I'm sure it did. That's what the bishop said to the actress. Um, oh dear. This typo happens to me all the time when I die a bit inside. How? Oh, the C is right next to the X, actually. That is funny. I don't think I've ever done that. I might not need to, Alison. I might have an option. We'll see. You are a chase mod, don't worry. Hello, Valeria. Why did the calendar break up with me? I felt like its days were numbered. Uh, what did Vincent say when he couldn't find his car? Where did my van go? Nice. Thank you, Monster Heart. Appreciate ya. Um, hello, I'm painting whilst listening for maximum relax time. That's nice, Jolly Han. Uh, what kind of shoes do ninjas wear? Sneakers. C is also next to V, as we all know, thanks to incest milk accident of 2025. I don't know who was investing in milk. Okay. So many great jokes in chat, yeah. I swear KCD is more demanding, and yet, there we go. CEO Radish gifting 2 tier 1 subs to. Thank you so much. Oh my god. Subs gifted. I tried flirting using geometry. Turns out I don't have the right angle. Okay, awesome. We're getting there, man. This is like hilarious with the jokes. Why are elevator jokes so good? They work on many levels. Actually, I have this elevator joke in mind that I wanted to share. So what's green goes up and down? A pea in a lift, or a frog in a lift. But not all frogs are green. Um, what's brown and sticky? A stick. Um, I'm sure it does, Alison, and I'm not. You're right. I mean, I'm just not an IT guy. I mean, I'm a welder. You know. Well, let me think of a welding joke. Why did the welder do well in his field? Because he was a bright spark. You know. Um, are you into conspiracy theories? Because I want to get Illuminati with you. Nat B, thank you for the subscribe. Um, what's brown sticky? Yeah, right. Classic. Um, are we just doing dad puns? No, not the whole night, don't we? What's yellow and turns red? Traffic light? Why are gherkins running through the woods? Because the gherkin glass hunts them. Uh, uh, I'm not sure I get that one. Because the gherkin glass. Okay. Why did the Frenchman have too much for breakfast? No, he had just enough. You only look like an IT guy. Absolutely. Yeah. Why did the pencil stop working? It lost its point. There we go. You showed your mum a photo of me, and she said he looks like he works in IT. I think your mum needs to get out more. Um, are raunchy jokes okay? How raunchy? On a level of 1 to 10, 10 is you wouldn't tell this joke apart from with your best friends. Um, a snake slithered into a bar. The bartender said, "Hey, we don't serve your kind here. You can't hold your liquor." Ah, I see. Uh, thinking about going to the bakery to buy something. Oh, is the bakery open? Something sweet is better. How does Moses make his tea? He brews it nice. No, no, Jar Jar D. Get yourself a Danish of me. A Dane. Oh, I love a Danish. When Satan goes bald, there will be hell to pay. Hee. What do you call a fish wearing a bow tie? Sophisticated. A man walks into a bar and asked if I was a horse. I said nay. A horse walks into a bar. Barman says, "Why the long face?" Why did the math book scream? Someone opened it and there were problems everywhere. Um, yeah, well, that's quite right, Win. Actually, the Radzig's face is the IT guy, and I'm not. That's funny. Probably artsy. Um, is he German? No, French origin, isn't it? Um, Facturas, methinks. Okay, what? Hang on, what's happened to chat? In Denmark, they're called Vienna bread. That's funny. How many garlics does it take to change a light? Just one bulb. Wee. Um, how many actors does it take to change a light bulb? A room full at a workshop, but they all need their motivation. Um, or is it how many actors does it take to change a light bulb? Just one, but he needs his motivation. Um, yeah, why are you showing pictures to your mum? Uh, Launch level 7-ish. Ooh, if you dare to try. When can you start drawing emotes? I still don't know what that means exactly. How does that work? Can someone explain it to me? What happens? Is it emotes for when people um throw bits at me and stuff? I really have no clue. I need to do some reading. I just haven't had a chance. Jim in construction. He has hands softer than silk. That's not true. Why don't elephants use computers? They're afraid of the mouse. We we were trying to gather data. Um, hey Dashi live. um, that's the point. It's stupid. Um, okay. What's green and runs through the forest? A gherkin. What's transparent and runs after it? The glass. Okay. Got it. Um, uh, hang on a sec now. Uh, I don't know what that means. I'm gonna have to do some reading. Hey, first time chat. Choo, me can. What's green is looking through a keyhole. Spinach. Mum always knows what's up. Why do people say Germans have no sense of humor? Uh, that's not true though. Um, does who feel better in your soul? People draw square reaction drawings, make them small sizes. You upload them to your Twitch in 3 different sized mobiles and PC chats, and then we can use them when we chat here. Aha! I believe some are already in the offing. If you have some for submission, you can send them to Sally to Ryumi, I believe. Is that right, Ryumi? Uh, oh, Draconian. Well, no, I love that one. What's the best thing about Switzerland? I don't know, but the flag is a big plus. Ah. um, Informal mum opinion. Okay. Hey, first time chat. Twink noise polluter. All right, what's up? Why do graveyards have gates? Because people are dying to get in. Get on. Okay, we can do it, mates. Um, yeah, exactly. Um, I believe there is a mango one, but I'm not sure it's in a chef's hat. Um, oh, Cactalius, why are you getting an award-winning sherry cask single malt whiskey delivered to you? Is it a gift or did you buy it? And how big is the cask? Sherry cask, that's big. He's getting it delivered to you? Holy crap. That's a lot of whiskey. Um, ha 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 ha, win. Ha 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 ha. Ha. Yeah, I can just spend hours on the internet working out myself and getting frustrated. Is also an option. Yes, a super mode, something like that. Uh, Oh. Yeah, we'll hold back on that one, Chrome and Germa. That's the sevens maybe too far. It's a bit too. It's a bit. Uh, too much for tonight. On a different stream, maybe. Um, bring me from from our distillery, and it's not. Oh, your relatives have the distillery. Where is the distillery? I love distilleries. Playing and just lost dice. Oh, sorry, are they true to Caesar? Um, hey Leroy the Wizard, how you doing? Um, launch level 5 max for tonight. Yeah. Have you ever had Brassador? It's cognac. I don't know if I have. I've had various cognacs. I'm a big Armagnac fan. Too cold in this Prague weather. There we go. A pirate walks in. It's true enough. It's still like -8 overnight in some parts of Prague. A pirate walks into a bar with a steering wheel protruding from his crotch. The bartender says, "Hey, dude." Oh, we got a bunch of subs. They do everything. The pirate says, "It's this confounded wheel. It's driving me nuts." Yeah. Okay, it's from Hennessy. All right. Bianco. Thank you. Uh, Boy Cocktailers, enjoy the whiskey. Jealous much. Next time, I'm on my tea. All right, chat. What do we think? Um, we're back to Poe tonight, and maybe we can start with a poem. What do we think? Uh, what? That's amazing. That's cool. We did finish the purloined letter. Yes, it happened. Um, no, not black tea, Valeria. Herbal for my chest. A poem, exactly. Damn, it is huge. It's massive. I had to put it in a cover. She said. I had to put it in a cover because of copyright stuff in it. Um, we will set the whole city on fire just to make our favorite stream. What did you hear, Juddy? I didn't hear anything. Um, last time I read to Isadora and Alone. Let's have a look. The Pen. It's a bit of a longer one. Yes, I think maybe we could read that one. I think this is like a funeral pen. Pan. It's the A with the E. Eighth or pen. Um, it was just the wind. It's so big it looks like a theatre prop. Yeah, right. Um, time to return to the breast counter. No, isn't bosom with Poe? Breast is old Dickens, isn't it? Exactly, Apollo. One of them. Aethel Um, it's from Penguin, Bianco. It's Penguin Classics, Penguin Books, Complete Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. Bosom, we're at 15. Thank you, Valeria, for keeping on top of that. All right, here we go. How shall the burial rite be read? The solemn song be sung, the requiem for the loveliest dead that ever died so young. Her friends are gazing on her, and on her gaudy bier, and weep, oh, to dishonor dead beauty with a tear. They loved her for her wealth, and they hated her for her pride, but she grew feeble in health, and they loved her that she died. They tell me while they speak of her costly broidered pall, that my voice is growing weak, that I should not sing at all. or that my tone should be tuned to such solemn song, so mournfully, that the dead may feel no wrong. But she's gone above, with young Hope at her side, and I'm drunk with love of the dead, who is my bride. Of the dead, dead who lies all perfumed there, with death upon her eyes, and the life upon her hair. Thus on the coffin loud and long I strike the murmured scent, through the great chambers to my song shall be the accompaniment. Thou diedst in thy life's June, but thou didst not die too fair. Thou didst not die too soon, nor with too calm an air. For more than friends on earth, thy life and love are riven, to join the untainted mirth of more than thrones in heaven. Therefore to thee this night I will no requiem raise, but waft thee on thy flight with the paean of old days. Um, thank you. Was that too quiet, guys? Was that a good volume? How much? Oh, are you wanting to make me do things for money? Mm-hmm. All right. A shorter one though, just so it's easier for me to keep up. Oh my God, we can do imitation. Imitation, okay? A dark unfathomed tide of interminable pride, and mist in a dream should my early life seem. I say that dream was fraught with a wild and waking thought of beings that have been which my spirit hath not seen. Had I let them pass me by with a dreaming eye, let none of earth inherit that vision on my spirit. Those thoughts I would control as a spell upon his soul. For that bright hope at last, that like time have passed, and my worldly rest hath gone, with a sigh as it passed on. I care not though it perish, with a thought I did then cherish. Oh my God, look at that poem. Oh. Uh, which shot from of Radzig? The one that's it went to West Country at the end there. It did not. I just went heavy oriented. Okay, all right. I'm gonna have to listen back to that now. I'm not taking that. Sorry, sorry, Jolly Han. That is fighting talk. Okay, maybe it went West Country. All right. You should draw a Valley Girl Radzig. Absolutely. Work at girl. So where are we at? Is this where we read the Black Cat? Do we get to Black Cat finally? Was that yes for the Black Cat? Black Cat, Black Cat. All right. Apparently, this is trigger warning. Is that right? Because someone does harm to some creature. Am I right in thinking that? Yeah? Hmm. Okay. Trigger warning for animal cruelty. Yep. Okay, guys, before we read this, though, just for my throat, I'm going to get some hot tea. I'm going to just like take a couple of minutes, okay? And get another clove of garlic. And then we will get on with the Black Cat, page 223. Out, that is, oh my God, that is, I'm not kidding you. Look where the bookmark is today. Look, look. That was by happen chance. All right, where are we to? Did I just hit this? Prickly triangle. Surely you mean Logan 7? Couch stream. Yeah, that's the way we roll, Ziggy Wiggy Stardust. Hi, Eva. I was having a break. I was just getting myself a hot tea because I'm feeling a little unwell. Um, so that's what was going on. But we're about to read. Um, I'm not that bad, Barbarian. I'm just a little under the weather, and I always hit zinc and vitamin C and all the minerals. Lots of fresh fruit, orange juice. Got some garlic in my mouth. I'm a sore throat, and I'm sorry, ginger, not garlic, crikey. And I'm actually doing. Never tried it before. We'll see how it goes. But I'm doing 8 cloves of garlic in 4 hours right now. I've just had a very big one. Jesus. And very chaste stream. Um, it's okay, Ziggy. We did a poem. We did a couple of poems. Um, I've been hating on improv since ever. Why? Why do you think it's bad? You've never seen us do improv, have you? You better come to Prague and see a show. Michael, no. Um, who has audio issues? Valeria, you have audio issues. Does anybody else have audio issues? Um, orange juice heal all potion. Yeah, especially fresh. I had this juicer at home I never used for ages, and I just got into using it. Like, why not? A bag of oranges, cheap. First time chat. Hey, Heart. Hello. Okay, cool. I've seen improv. I've done improv. Improv sucks. Okay, well, what sucks about it? I'm not picking on you. No, just interested. Some people really don't like it. That's fine. Some actors don't like it. Some people don't like watching it. It's okay, Apollo. I think, in my opinion, at least, everybody can like what they like. But I'm not trying to pick on Valeria. I particularly love it, but I also understand that sometimes it can kind of suck. It can be a bit painful. Um, all right, Brizzle. All right there, Babber. Or as we say it round Stroud way, we say, all right, Shag. Um, Luke, hello, replying to me. Luke, hello. Oh, but that's kind of the fun of it, isn't it? Is to see it in the moment. Also, some really excellent improv can be done where if you're listening properly. Stroud mentioned. That's right. Twink noise polluter. Why is that? Where are you? Where are you? You're not from Stroud, is it? Mm. I'll tell you what, Valeria. Next time you're in Prague, I don't know when you're next coming. Um, we shall try and get a show up. I know that the plan would be to get some misrule stuff going on. We have plans for this year. We have a skeptic near Brizzle. Are you grandpa's from Stroud? Nice. Cool. Um, how much? Listen, he would do it for burrito and a pilsner. I'm kidding. I don't know. We'll get him on. I saw him the other night. I mentioned it. Um, what do I like best about improv? Um, I think as a performer, it's a great. Um, I love rehearsals. I love rehearsing a show, getting to know a group of actors very well, and it's fun. But there's something about being allowed to play different characters and just really thinking in the moment. And there's a real urgency to the listening that is very good, which should be there in any kind of acting. But for I'm sorry, I've got to have a proper good cough. But yeah, I think for any acting, you should really be listening. But for improv, there's exactly the spontaneity, but also the imperativeness in listening, of knowing when to jump in and hold back, and watching people to see when they need support or don't, and also seeing how far you can drive the narrative. Because I think sometimes, for the sake of being funny and not focusing on the story, uh, doesn't make any sense. Um, or it cannot make any sense. But when you really listen, collaboration. There we go. But I get your point, Valeria. I've seen some. I paid good money to go watch some improv in New York, or was it in Washington D.C.? I can't remember now. And it was awful. It was awful. It's $15 I'll never get back. And apparently, this was a professional group. Um, maybe so, Judge. I don't know. Okay. For those of you who just um signing in, we're reading Edgar Allan Poe. Specifically, we're going to be reading The Black Cat, which, if you don't know, I've never read it, so this is new to me. Has some animal cruelty in it. So, for those of you who do know the story better than I, maybe when we get to that point, you can flag it up. I'm a dog person. I'm a cat person, cat. Um, yeah, that's okay. When it comes up, guys, just let people know, and they can just kind of dip out or turn the volume off for a couple of minutes, and then tell them when it's safe. I guess would be nice, wouldn't it? Are you bubbling out in the skies? 1 to 10. What of cruelty? I don't know. Oh, Alison, that sucks. We're finally getting to it. The Black Cat. For the most wild yet most homely narrative which I am about to pen, I neither expect nor solicit belief. Mad indeed would I be to expect it, in a case where my very senses reject their own evidence. Yet mad am I not, and very surely do I not dream. But tomorrow I die, and today I would unburden my soul. My immediate purpose is to place before the world, plainly, succinctly, and without comment, a series of mere household events. In their consequences, these events have terrified, have tortured, have destroyed me, yet I will not attempt to expound them. To me, they have presented little but horror. To many, they will seem less terrible than barroques. Hereafter, perhaps, some intellect may be found which will reduce my phantasm to the commonplace, some intellect more calm, more logical, and far less excitable than my own, which will perceive, in the circumstances I detail with awe, nothing more than an ordinary succession of very natural causes and effects. From my infancy I was noted for the docility and humanity of my disposition. My tenderness of heart was even so conspicuous as to make me the jest of my companions. I was especially fond of animals, and was indulged by my parents with a great variety of pets. With these I spent most of my time, and never was so happy as when feeding and caressing them. This peculiarity of character grew with my growth, and in my manhood I derived from it one of my principal sources of pleasure. To those who have cherished an affection for a faithful and sagacious dog, I need hardly be at the trouble of explaining the nature or the intensity of the gratification thus derivable. There is something in the unselfish and self-sacrificing love of a brute which goes directly to the heart of him who has had frequent occasion to test the paltry friendship and gossamer fidelity of mere man. I married early and was happy to find in my wife a disposition not uncongenial with my own. Observing my partiality for domestic pets, she lost no opportunity of procuring those of the most agreeable kind. We had birds, goldfish, a fine dog, rabbits, a small monkey, and a cat. This latter was remarkably large and beautiful animal, entirely black and sagacious to an astonishing degree. In speaking of his intelligence, my wife, who at heart was not a little tinctured with superstition, made frequent allusion to the ancient popular notion, which regarded all black cats as witches in disguise. Not that she was ever serious upon this point, and I mention the matter at all for no better reason than that it happens just now to be remembered. Chest resonance, eh? Pluto, this was the cat's name, was my favourite pet and playmate. I alone fed him, and he attended me wherever I went about the house. It was even with difficulty that I could prevent him from following me through the streets. Our friendship lasted in this manner for several years, during which my general temperament and character, through the instrumentality of the fiend intemperance, had, I blush to confess it, experienced a radical altercation for the worse. I grew, day by day, more moody, more irritable, more regardless of the feelings of others. I suffered myself to use intemperate language to my wife. At length I even offered her personal violence. My pets, of course, were made to feel the change in my disposition. I not only neglected but ill-used them. For Pluto, however, I still retained sufficient regard to restrain me from maltreating him, as I made no scruple of maltreating the rabbits, the monkey, or even the dog, when, by accident or through affection, they came in my way. But my disease grew upon me, for what disease is like alcohol? And at length even Pluto, who was now becoming old and consequently somewhat peevish, even Pluto began to experience the effects of my ill temper. One night, returning home much intoxicated from one of my haunts about town, I fancied that the cat avoided my presence. I seized him, when, in his fright at my violence, he inflicted a slight wound upon my hand with his teeth. The fury of a demon instantly possessed me. I knew myself no longer. My original soul seemed at once to take its flight from my body, and a more than fiendish malevolence, gin-nurtured, thrilled every fibre of my frame. I took from my waistcoat pocket a penknife, opened it, grasped the poor beast by the throat, and deliberately cut one of its eyes from the socket. I blush, I burn, I shudder while I pen the damnable atrocity. When reason returned with the morning, when I had slept off the fumes of the night's debauch, I experienced a sentiment half of horror, half of remorse, the crime of which I had been guilty, but it was, at best, a feeble and equivocal feeling, and the soul remained untouched. I again plunged into excess, and soon drowned in wine all memory of the deed. In the meantime, the cat slowly recovered. The socket of the lust eye presented, it is true, a frightful appearance, but he no longer appeared to suffer any pain. He went about the house as usual, but, as might be expected, fled in extreme terror at my approach. I had so much of my old heart left as to be at first grieved by this evident dislike on the part of a creature which had once so loved me. But this feeling soon gave place to irritation, and then came, as if to my final and irrevocable overthrow, the spirit of perseverance. Of this spirit philosophy takes no account, yet I am not sure that my soul lives, that perseverance is one of the most primitive impulses of the human heart. One of the indivisible primary faculties or sentiments which give direction to the character of a man, who has not 100 times found himself committing a vile or stupid action for no other reason than because he knows he should not? Have we not a perpetual inclination on the teeth of our best judgment to violation that which is law, merely because we understand it to be such? This spirit of persevereness, I say, came to my final overthrow. It was this unfathomable longing of the soul to vex itself, to offer violence to its own nature, to do wrong for the wrong's sake only, that urged me to continue and finally to consummate the injury I had inflicted upon the unoffending brute. One morning, in cold blood, I slipped a noose about its neck and hung it to the limb of a tree. Hung it with the tears streaming from my eyes and with the bitterest remorse at my heart. Hung it because I knew that it had loved me, and because I had felt it had given me no reason of offence. Hung it because I knew that in doing so I was committing a sin, a deadly sin that would be so jeopardize my immortal soul as to place it, if such a thing were possible, even beyond the reach of the infinite mercy of the most merciful and most terrible God. On the night of the day on which this most cruel deed was done, I was aroused from sleep by the cry of fire. The curtains of my bed were in flames. The whole house was blazing. It was with great difficulty that my wife, a servant, and myself made our escape from the conflagration. The destruction was complete. My entire worldly wealth was swallowed up, and I resigned myself thenceforward to despair. I am above the weakness of seeking to establish a sequence of cause and effect between the disaster and the atrocity, but I am detailing a chain of facts and wish not to leave even a possible link imperfect. On the day succeeding the fire, I visited the ruins. The walls, with one exception, had fallen in. This exception was found in a compartment wall not very thick, which stood upon the middle of the house, and against which had rested the head of my bed. The plastering had there, in great measure, resisted the action of the fire, a fact which I attributed to its having been recently spread. Above this wall a dense crowd were collected, and many persons seemed to be examining a particular portion of it with very minute and eager attention. The words strange and singular and other similar expressions excited my curiosity. I approached and saw, as if graven in bas relief upon the white surface, the figure of a gigantic cat. The impression was given with an accuracy truly marvellous. There was a rope about the animal's neck. When I first beheld this apparition, for I could scarcely regard it as less, my wonder and my terror were extreme. But at length reflection came to my aid. The cat, I remembered, had been hung in a garden adjacent to the house. Upon the alarm of fire, this garden had been immediately filled by the crowd, by some one of whom the animal must have been cut from the tree and thrown through an open window into my chamber. This had probably been done with the view of arousing me from sleep. The falling of other walls had compressed the victim of my cruelty into the substance of the freshly spread plaster, the lime of which, with the flames and the ammonia from the carcass, had then accomplished the portraiture as I saw it. Although I thus readily accounted to my reason, if not altogether to my conscience, for the startling fact just detailed, it did not the less fail to make a deep impression upon my fancy. For months I could not rid myself of the phantasm of the cat, and during this period there came back into my spirit a half sentiment that seemed, but was not, remorse. I went so far as to regret the loss of the animal, and to look about me among the vile haunts which I now habitually frequented for another pet of the same species and of somewhat similar appearance with which to supply its place. One night, as I sat, half stupefied, in a den of more than infamy, my attention was suddenly drawn to some black object reposing upon the head of one of those immense hogsheads of gin or of rum which constituted the chief furniture of the apartment. I'd been looking steadily at the top of this hogshead for some minutes, and what now caused me surprise was the fact that I had not sooner perceived the object thereupon. I approached it and touched it with my hand. It was a black cat, a very large one, fully as large as Pluto, and closely resembling him in every aspect but one. Pluto had not a white hair upon any portion of his body, but this cat had a large, although indefinite splotch of white covering nearly the whole region of the breast. Upon my touching him, he immediately arose, purred loudly, and rubbed against my hand, and appeared delighted with my notice. This, then, was the very creature of which I was in search. I had once offered to purchase it off the landlord, but this person made no claim to it, knew nothing of it, and had never seen it before. I continued my caresses, and when I prepared to go home, the animal evinced a disposition to accompany me. I permitted it to do so, occasionally stooping and patting it as we proceeded. When it reached the house, it domesticated itself at once and became immediately a great favourite with my wife. For my own part, I soon found a dislike to it arising within me. This was just the reverse of what I had anticipated, but I know not how or why it was. Its evident fondness for myself rather disgusted and annoyed me. By slow degrees, these feelings of disgust and annoyance rose into the bitterness of hatred. I avoided the creature, a certain sense of shame and the remembrance of my former deed of cruelty preventing me from physically abusing it. I did, for some weeks, strike or otherwise violently ill use it, but gradually, very gradually, I came to look upon it with unutterable loathing, and to flee silently from its odious presence as from the breath of a pestilence. What added, no doubt, to my hatred of the beast was the discovery, on the morning after I brought it home, that, like Pluto, it also had been deprived of one of its eyes. This circumstance, however, only endeared it to my wife, who, as I have already said, possessed in a high degree that humanity of feeling which had once been my distinguishing trait, and the source of many of my simplest and purest pleasures. With my aversion to this cat, however, its partiality for myself seemed to increase. It followed my footsteps with a pertinacity which it would be difficult to make the reader comprehend. Wherever I sat, it would crouch beneath my chair, or spring upon my knees, covering me with its loathsome caresses. If I rose to walk, it would get between my feet, and thus nearly throw me down, or fastening its long, sharp claws in my dress, clamber in this manner to my breast. At such times, although I longed to destroy it with a blow, I was yet withheld from doing so, partly by a memory of my former crime, but chiefly, let me confess it at once, by absolute dread of the beast. This dread was not exactly a dread of physical evil, and yet I should be at a loss how otherwise to define it. I am almost ashamed to own, yes, even in this felon's cell, I am almost ashamed to own that the terror and the horror with which the animal inspired me had been heightened by one of the merest chimeras it would be possible to conceive. My wife had called my attention more than once to the character of the mark of white hair of which I had spoken, and which constituted the sole visible difference between the strange beast and the one I had destroyed. The reader will remember that this mark, although large, had been originally very indefinite, but by slow degrees nearly imperceptible, and with which for a long time my reason struggled to reject as fanciful, it had at length assumed a rigorous distinctness of outline. It, it was now the representation of an object that I shudder to name, and for this above all I loathed and dreaded, and would have rid myself of the monster had I dared it. It was now, I say, the image of a ghastly thing, of the gallows, mournful and terrible engine of horror and of crime, of agony and of death. And now was I indeed wretched beyond the wretchedness of mere humanity, and a brute beast, whose fellow I had contemptuously destroyed, a brute beast to work for me, a man fashioned in the image of high God, so much of insufferable woe. Alas, neither by day nor by night knew I the blessing of rest any more. During the former, the creature left me no moment alone, and in the latter I started hourly from dreams of unutterable fear, to find the hot breath of the thing upon my face, and its vast weight an incarnate nightmare that I had no power to shake off, incumbent eternally upon my heart. Beneath the pressure of torments such as these, the feeble remnant of the good within me succeeded. Evil thoughts became my sole intimates, the darkest and most evil of thoughts. The moodiness of my usual temper increased to hatred of all things and of all mankind, while from the sudden, frequent, and ungovernable outbursts of a fury to which I now blindly abandoned myself, my uncomplaining wife, alas, was the most usual and the most patient of sufferers. One day she accompanied me upon some household errand into the cellar of the old building which our poverty compelled us to inhabit. The cat followed me down the steep stairs, and nearly throwing me headlong, exasperated me to madness. Uplifting an axe, and forgetting in my wrath the childish dread which had hitherto stayed my hand, I aimed a blow at the animal, which of course would have proved instantly fatal had it descended as I wished. But this blow was arrested by the hand of my wife. Goaded by the interference into a rage more than demoniacal, I withdrew my arm from her grasp and buried the axe in her brain. She fell dead upon the spot without a groan. This hideous murder accomplished, I set myself forthwith, and with entire deliberation, to the task of concealing the body. I knew that I could not remove it from the house, either by day or by night, without the risk of being observed by the neighbours. Many projects entered my mind. At one period I thought of cutting the corpse into minute fragments and destroying them by fire. At another I resolved to dig a grave for it in the floor of the cellar. Again I deliberated upon the casting it in the well in the yard, about packing it in a box as if merchandise, with the usual arrangements, and so getting a porter to take it from the house. Finally, I hit upon what I considered a far better expedient than either of these. I determined to wall it up in the cellar, as the monks of the Middle Ages are recorded to have walled up their victims. For a purpose such as this, the cellar was well adapted. Its walls were loosely constructed, and had lately been plastered throughout with a rough plaster, which the dampness of the atmosphere prevented from hardening. Moreover, in one of the walls was a projection caused by a false chimney or fireplace that had been filled up and made to resemble the rest of the cellar. I made no doubt that I could readily displace the bricks at this point, insert the corpse, and wall the whole up as before, so that no eye could detect anything suspicious. And in this calculation I was not deceived. By means of a crowbar, I easily dislodged the bricks, and having carefully deposited the body against the inner wall, I propped it in that position, while with little trouble I relaid the whole structure as it originally stood. Having procured mortar, sand, and hair, with every possible precaution, I prepared the plaster, which could not be distinguished from the old, and with this I very carefully went over the new brickwork. When it had finished, I felt satisfied that all was right. The wall did not present the slightest appearance of having been disturbed. The rubbish on the floor was picked up with the minutest care. I looked around triumphantly, and said to myself, "Here at least, then, my labour has not been in vain." My next step was to look for the beast which had been the cause of so much wretchedness, for I had at length firmly resolved to put it to death. Had I been able to meet with it at that moment, there could have been no doubt of its fate, but it appeared that the crafty animal had been alarmed at the violence of my previous anger, and forbore to present itself in my present mood. It is impossible to describe or to imagine the deep, blissful sense of relief which the absence of the detested creature occasioned in my bosom. It did not make its appearance during the night, and thus for one night at least, since its introduction into the house, I soundly and tranquilly slept. I slept, even with the burden of murder upon my soul. The second and the third day passed, and still my tormentor came not. Once again I breathed as a free man. The monster in terror had fled the premises for ever. I should behold it no more. My happiness was supreme. The guilt of my dark deed disturbed me but little. Some few inquiries had been made, but these had been readily answered. Even a search had been instituted, but of course nothing was to be discovered. I looked upon my future felicity as secured. Upon the fourth day of the assassination, a party of the police came, very unexpectedly, into the house, and proceeded again to make rigorous investigation of the premises. Secure, however, in the inscrutability of my place of concealment, I felt no embarrassment whatever. The officers bade me accompany them in their search. They left no nook or corner unexplored. At length, the third or fourth time they descended into the cellar, I quivered not in a muscle. My heart beat calmly as that of one who slumbers in innocence. I walked the cellar from end to end. I folded my arm upon my bosom, and roamed easily to and fro. The police were thoroughly satisfied and prepared to depart. The glee at my heart was too strong to be restrained. I burned to say if but one word by way of triumph, and to render doubly sure their assurance of my guiltlessness. "Gentlemen," I said at last, as the party ascended the steps, "I delight to have allayed your suspicions. I wish you all health and a little more courtesy. By the by, gentlemen, this is a very well constructed house." In the rabid desire to say something easily, I scarcely knew what I uttered at all. I may say an excellently well constructed house. These walls, are you going, gentlemen? These walls are solidly put together, and here, through the mere frenzy of bravado, I rapped heavily with a cane which I held in my hand upon that portion of the brickwork behind which stood the corpse of the wife of my bosom. But may God shield and deliver me from the fangs of the arch-fiend. No sooner had the reverberation of my blows sunk into silence than I was answered by a voice from within the tomb, by a cry, at first muffled and broken like the sobbing of a child, and then quickly swelling into one long, loud, and continuous scream, utterly anomalous and inhuman, a howl, a wailing shriek, half of horror, half of triumph, such as might have arisen only out of hell, conjointly from the throats of the damned in their agony, and of the demons that exult in the damnation. Of my own thoughts it is folly to speak. Swooning, I staggered to the opposite wall. For one instant the party on the stairs remained motionless through extremity of terror and awe. In the next, a dozen stout arms were toiling at the wall. It fell bodily. The corpse, already greatly decayed and clotted with gore, stood erect before the eyes of the spectators. Upon its head, with red extended mouth and solitary eye of fire, sat the hideous beast whose craft had seduced me into murder, and whose informing voice had consigned me to the hangman. I had walled the monster up within the tomb. Retribution. Bosom counter up to 18. I know, it's great writing, isn't it? Mikishima. Cool stuff. What is? I scroll up and what I see is prickly triangle and nothing but lurking, talking about cat titty choking and fat fucking hooves. What is going on, you guys? Oh my word! All right, I say nothing. I say nothing. Oh, the animal abuse. Oh, and the murder. Oh, were you quoting? It's a quote. I see. Um, I think you love it, Rumi. Cigs when you can have a cig now, but I'm not smoking. All right. Um, here's the thing. I think I've got one more short story in me tonight, and after that I'm gonna have to get to bed. By the way, tomorrow, if anybody's tuning in, they have time. I will be cooking at 1 o'clock. Uh, Lord of the Flies is not out of copyright. You can't bribe me with anything, I'm afraid. I can't do that. I cannot do that. Chromangioma. I can only read stuff that's out of copyright, see? The oval portrait is only 2 pages. Uh-huh, okay. 1 o'clock, Bublina, yes. Tomorrow at 1. I've had to push the time back a little bit. I originally said 12 o'clock, but I realised it's not going to work. And we'll go for 2 hours. It's going to be a bit quicker tomorrow. Last Saturday turned into a bit of a monster due to some tech issues and whatever else. But fingers crossed, the thumbs pressed, whatever. First time chat and Amarin. What are we cooking? Nothing today. We're reading. We're reading a book. Tomorrow we're cooking 1300 hours, Central European time, potato soup, German Kartoffelsuppe. Um, it's a vegetable broth. Meat is optional if you want. You can also replace the bacon, I guess, with some tofu, and of course you can get vegan, um, like what are they called? Like oh my god, Wiener sausages, Frankfurters, like hot dog sausage is sometimes served with that as well. Um, DIY Enchantress, are you going to KC concert in Wrocław? I don't know. I'd like to. I'm just not sure how that weekend's going to work out. Um, yeah, we're not doing artichokes. Sorry. Are you and oh, question. You mean globe artichokes, the fruit, or um do you mean Jerusalem artichokes? Topinambur. Yeah, Bockwürstchen, but whatever your equivalent you can find. You have a helper to peel potatoes and Jerusalem artichokes. Yeah, no, that's one of my favorite soups actually. For those of you who don't know, Topinambur Jerusalem artichokes are little roots. They're quite knobbly, they have a quite distinct flavor. But the cream of Jerusalem artichoke soup is fantastic. Um, Yay, Esther, well done. Some crafting done. Um, Rat Eye is on the cards. Um, yeah, Wienerwurst, Frankfurter, hot dog sausages, basically. um, Angela Merkel's favorite dish, but of course, um, East German style. This is the thing. Like, I realize we have an issue here with choosing soups because every region has its variation, and whatever. So like choosing one soup per nation is, I realize, problematic, but that's what it is. Brass casting in mid-February, and they're going to be ready for Olympics. Wow. Okay. I will be writing bullshit in the chat. Teamwork. Perfect. Okay. Slipper soup. Mm. How will you pick which French soup to make? I think this has already been picked for me. Um, I've already been asked to make French onion soup. Um, I think so. I think it has to be. Oh shit! Well, Alison, what was this? What was that story? It was only 2 pages long. Well, hello now. The oval portrait is true. There's also the Imp of the Perverse and the Island of Fae. Both are 5 pages long. You don't have a regional soup. Mm. It might take me a while to get to New Zealand, to be fair. I'm going by capitals closest to Prague. So, um, goulash, yes, goulash will be Hungary, Budapest. And actually, that's funny, ICPO, because I decided already that the United Kingdom will be split into Scotland, Wales, and England. Dobry wieczór! Missing from most maps. Isn't it just stuck onto Australia in the didn't say that. Ah, oh, lobster bisque. Mmm. Or a clam chowder. Oh my god. Yes, Rayumi, you're right. Parsnip it is different from parsley root, and it's funny actually because in the UK you can get parsnips much more are used much more often than parsley root is. Don't worry, Jar Jar. We're not going to start reading for a minute or two. Greek lentil soup with red wine vinegar. Oh my god, there's so many good soups. Where do you even start? Parsley root. Yeah, well, it tastes a little bit more like celery, I would say, but it is somewhere in between. Yeah. Zuppa toscana. Mm. The Imp of the Perverse has caught my eye. No, but the request was made for the oval portrait, so let's do that. Let's do that. Tonight. Tonight. The Cask of Amontillado. Um, yeah, but leek soup you find everywhere. I mean, leek and potato in England, and actually the leek is the Welsh vegetable. Hakezellauch never struck me as well. God, this ginger's strong. Sorry. Woo-hoo. Jajadi, did you manage to run to the toilet? Are you back? Broths are in the realm of soups, yes. Um, Here's the thing, Stanley. Brühe, broth, um, does not necessarily mean the same thing in English, actually, because a broth in we would normally call like a soup that's heavier. There's more kind of solid components in it. It's this is where translations get tricky, but obviously the language is. Oh my God, tortellini and brodo. Oh, just take me already. Chili is a stew. Yes, yes, and that's that's the defining thing. I mean, would you, for example, actually, in English terms, even a goulash soup when it's got lots of bits in it might be more like a broth by consideration. Exactly, a stock is what in German you would say Brühe, but from the Germanic Brühe, it's become broth, right? So that's where we got that. It's like a bit of a false friend, I think. Bone juice. You like bean juice in the morning, personally? Of course you do, Win. Um, each to their own. Polivka, yeah, Polivka. Yeah, but the Czechs are the word for everything, right? Apparently. Ooh, burn. Um, it inspired Oscar Wilde. I did not know this. So actually, Poe was responsible for inspiring two writers. I'm not getting a mullet. Don't even start on that. I know he's being phony, and I was being phony with you. To są pomluvěža. Especially swear words for everything. Well, maybe so. Mullet Mishi. Oh, all right, okay. Someone do me a mullet. Do Radzig with a mullet. No, I'm not going for one of those Australian mullets. I'm too old for that shit. Um, why would you swear at a soup? Because, dear, it deserves it. You get one if it was for a job. Depends on how much they paid. You're never too old for it. I don't know. I don't know about that. Get a wolf cut. What's a wolf cut? Oh, is that longer on the top and short on the sides? Kind of wavy, like the Aussie football players. A modern one is not the same as Australian. Well, what are you talking about? The mullet's back in because of the Aussies. A mullet is where the hair is longer at the back and short at the front. Business on the front, party in the back. Uh, Yeah, well, I would do, apart from I just haven't had a chance to get to the hairdresser. Um, Joe Dirt Mullet. All right, we're going to read the oval portrait and see how we go. It's 10 o'clock. Bold. Do a bold cut. You guys killing me. The oval portrait. The chateau into which my valet had ventured to make forcible entrance rather than permit me, in my desperately wounded condition, to pass a night in the open air, was one of those piles of commingled gloom and grandeur which hath so long frowned upon the Apennines, not less in the fact than in the fancy of Miss Radcliffe. Mrs. Radcliffe. To all appearance, it had been temporarily and very lately abandoned. We established ourselves in one of the smallest and least sumptuously furnished apartments. It lay in a remote turret of the building. Its decorations were rich, yet tattered and antique. Its walls were hung with tapestry and bedecked with manifold and multiform armorial trophies, together with an unusually great number of very spirited modern paintings in frames of rich golden arabesque. In these paintings, which depended from the walls not only in their main surfaces, but in very many nooks which the bizarre architecture of the chateau rendered necessary, in these paintings my incipient delirium, perhaps, had caused me to take deep interest, so that I bade Pedro to close the heavy shutters of the room, since it was already night, to light the tongues of a tall candelabrum which stood by the head of my bed, and to throw open far and wide the fringed curtains of black velvet which enveloped the bed itself. I wished all this done that I might resign myself, if not to sleep, at least alternately to the contemplation of these pictures and the perusal of a small volume which had been found upon the pillow, and which purported to criticize and describe them. Long, long I read, and devoutly, devoutly I gazed. Rapidly and gloriously the hours flew by, and the deep midnight came. The position of the candelabrum displeased me, and outreaching my hand with difficulty, rather than disturb my slumbering valet, I placed it so as to throw its rays more fully upon the book. But the action produced an effect altogether unanticipated. The rays of the numerous candles, for there were many, now fell within a niche of the room which had hitherto been thrown into deep shade by one of the bedposts. I thus saw in vivid light a picture all noticed before, unnoticed. It was the portrait of a young girl just ripening into womanhood. I glanced at the painting hurriedly, and then closed my eyes. Why I did this was not at first apparent even to my own perception. But while my lids remained thus shut, I ran over in my mind my reason for so shutting them. It was an impulsive movement to gain time for thought, to make sure that my vision had not deceived me, to calm and subdue my fancy for a more sober and more certain gaze. In a very few moments I again looked fixedly at the painting. That I now saw aright I could not and would not doubt, for the first flashing of the candles upon the canvas had seemed to dissipate the dreamy stupor which was stealing over my senses, and to startle me at once into waking life. The portrait, I have already said, was that of a young girl. It was a mere head and shoulders done in what is technically termed a vignette manner, much in the style of the favourites of the heads of Sully. The arms, the bosom, and even the ends of the radiant hair melted imperceptibly into the vague yet deep shadow which formed the background of the whole. The frame was oval, richly gilded, and filigreed in moresque. As a thing of art, nothing could be more admirable than the painting itself, but it could have been neither the execution of the work nor the immortal beauty of the countenance which had so suddenly and so vehemently moved me. Least of all could it have been that my fancy, shaken from its half slumber, had mistaken the head for that of a living person. I saw at once that the peculiarities of the design, of the vignetting, and of the frame must have instantly dispelled such idea, must have prevented even its momentary entertainment. Thinking earnestly upon these points, I remained for an hour, perhaps half sitting, half reclining, with my vision riveted upon the portrait. At length, satisfied with the true secret of its effect, I fell back within the bed. I had found the spell of the picture in an absolute life-likeliness of expression which, at first startling, finally confounded, subdued, and appalled me. With deep and reverent awe, I replaced the candelabrum to its former position, The cause of my deep agitation being thus shut from view, I sought eagerly the volume which discussed the paintings and their histories. Turning to the number which designated the oval portrait, I there read the vague and quaint words which follow. She was a maiden of rarest beauty, not more lovely than full of glee, and evil was the hour when we saw and loved and wedded the painter. He, passionate, studious, austere, having already a bride in his art, she a maiden of rarest beauty, not more lovely than full of glee, all light and smiles and frolicsome as the young fawn, loving and cherishing all things, hating only the art which was her rival, dreading only the palette and brushes and other untoward instruments which deprived her of the countenance of her lover. It was thus a terrible thing for this lady to hear the painter speak of his desire to portray even his young bride. But she was humble and obedient, and sat meekly for many weeks in the dark, high-turreted chamber where the light dripped upon the pale canvas only from overhead. But he, the painter, took glory in his work, which went on from hour to hour and from day to day, and he was passionate and wild and moody man, who became lost in reveries, so that he would not see that the light which fell so ghastly in that lone turret withered the health and spirits of his bride, who pined visibly to all but him. She smiled on, and still on, uncomplainingly, because she saw that the painter, who had high renown, took a fervid and burning pleasure in his task, and wrought day and night to depict her who so loved him, yet who grew daily more dispirited and weak. And in sooth, some who beheld the portrait spoke of its resemblance in low words, as of a mighty marvel, and a proof not less of the power of the painter than of his deep love for her whom he depicted so surpassingly well. But at length, as the labour drew nearer to its conclusion, there were admitted none into the tower, for the painter had grown wild with the ardour of his work, and turned his eyes from the canvas rarely even to regard the countenance of his wife. And she would not see that the tints which he spread upon the canvas were drawn from the cheeks of her who sat beside him. And when many weeks had passed, and but little remained to do, save one brush upon the mouth and one tint upon the eye, and the spirit of the lady again flickered up as the flame within the socket of the lamp, and then the brush was given, and the tint was placed, and for one moment the painter stood entranced before the work which he had wrought. But in the next, while he gazed, he grew tremulous and very pallid, and aghast, and crying with a loud voice, "This is indeed life itself," turned suddenly to regard his beloved. She was dead. Oh, hey, we got raiders. Hey, riveting rogue. Thanks for the raid. She was dead. She was dead as a doornail. Marley was dead. Of that there could be no doubt. Thank you. My pleasure. We got raiders. Whoop whoop. Raiding up the hill. Bosom 19, yeah? What? There was no moist today, I'm afraid. Oh, no Petra cats here. So many raiders. Dead. I know, did you come just in at that point? And she was dead. Dead as a doornail. What do we think? Time for one more? A short one? A 5-pager? I wanted to read the imp, didn't I? The imp of the perverse. How do we feel about that? I never wanted to end. Let's get to bosom 20. I hope so. Do we think there would be a bosom in the imp of the perverse? All right, this one's 5 pages long, chat, and then I'm going to call it a night because I am pooped. And guess what? Tomorrow we're testing. We're going to be testing to see whether stream on Saturday evening is going to work. Whoop whoop! Lord of Misrule, all in the same room doing weird things live on the stream, on the Twitchings. With Lords of Misrule on the Twitchings, tweeting and tweeting away. Oh my goodness! The bells, Esmeralda. Who wrote the Hunchback of Notre Dame? Is that in copyright? Should we have a look at? That might not be in copyright, you know. Oh, so much to read. Valeria's activated. Yes, go for 20. Victor Hugo. Okay, so that's depending on the date of the translation. I will have to check. All right. I thought it was Victor Hugo. His house is really nice. Isn't that what Esmeralda said, Valeria? Oh no, sorry, got it the wrong way around. What tests? Which tests? The sound tests? Barbarian, what do you mean? That we know of. Keta Tanglefoot that we know of. Stream tests. We're not. No, I'm not always. Sometimes. I don't know. What is it? It'll be there. It'll literally just. It literally just me going, "Oh, is this working?" All right. Oh, this looks like a funky one. Does anybody know the Imp of the Perverse? Alison, you seem to be familiar with this stuff. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing mic. 1, 2, 1, 2. You read it a while ago. Okay. Okay. Let's see if we can find Bosom 20. Here we go. The Imp of the Perverse. In the consideration of the faculties and impulses of the prima mobilia of the human soul, the phrenologists have failed to make room for a propensity which, although obviously existing as a radical, primitive, irreducible sentiment, has been equally overlooked by all the moralists who have preceded them. In the pure arrogance of the reason, we have all overlooked it. We have suffered its existence to escape our senses solely through want of belief, of faith, whether it be faith in revelation or faith in the Kabbalah. The idea of it has never occurred to us simply because of its supererogation. We saw no need of the impulse nor the propensity. We could not perceive its necessity. We could not understand, that is to say, we could not have understood, had the notion of this primum mobile ever obtruded itself. We could not have understood in what manner it might be made to further the objects of humanity, either temporal or eternal. It cannot be denied that phrenology and, in great measure, all metaphysicianism have been concocted as priori. The intellectual or logical man, rather than the understanding or observant man, set himself to imagine designs, to dictate purposes to God. Having thus fathomed to satisfaction the intentions of Jehovah, out of these intentions he built his innumerable systems of mind. In the matter of phrenology, for example, we first determined, naturally enough, that it was the design of the deity that man should eat. We then assigned to man an organ of alimentiveness, and this organ is the scourge with which the deity compels man willy-nilly into eating. Secondly, having settled it to be God's will that man should continue his species, we discovered an organ of amativeness forthwith, and so with compativeness, with ideality, with causality, with constructiveness, So, in short, with every organ, whether representing a propensity, a moral sentiment, or a faculty of the pure intellect. And in these arrangements of the principia of human action, the Spurzheimatites, whether right or wrong, in part or upon whole, have but followed in principle the footsteps of their predecessors, deducing and establishing everything from the preconceived destiny of man and upon the ground of the objects of his Creator. It would have been wiser, it would have been safer to classify, if classify we must, upon the basis of what man usually or occasionally did, and was always occasionally doing, rather than upon the basis of what we took it for granted the Deity intended him to do. If we cannot comprehend God in his visible works, how then in his inconceivable thoughts that call the works into being? If we cannot understand him in his objective creatures, how then in his substantive moods and phases of creation? Induction, a posteriori, would have brought phrenology to admit, as an innate and primitive principle of human action, a paradoxical something, which we may call perverseness. For want of a more characteristic term, in the sense I intend, it is, in fact, a mobile without motive, a motive not motiviert. Through its promptings we act without comprehensible object. Or, if this shall be understood as a contradiction in terms, we may so far modify the proposition as to say that through its promptings we act for the reason that we should not. In theory, no reason can be more unreasonable, but in fact there is none more strong. With certain minds, under certain conditions, it becomes absolutely irresistible. I am not more certain that I breathe than that the assurance of the wrong or error of any action is often the one unconquerable force which impels us, and alone impels us, to its prosecution. Nor will this overwhelming tendency to do wrong for wrong's sake admit of analysis or resolution into ulterior elements. It is a radical, a primitive impulse, elementary. It will be said, I am aware, that when we persist in acts because we feel we should not persist in them, our conduct is but a modification of that which ordinarily springs from the combativeness of phrenology. But a glance will show the fallacy of this idea. The phrenological combativeness has for its essence the necessity of self-defense. It is our safeguard against injury. Its principle regards our well-being, and thus the desire to be well is excited simultaneously with its development. It follows that the desire to be well must be excited simultaneously with any principle which shall be merely a modification of combativeness. But in the case of that something which I term perverseness, the desire to be well is not only not aroused, but a strongly antagonistical sentiment exists. An appeal to one's own heart is, after all, the best reply to the sophistry just noticed. No one who trustingly consults and thoroughly questions his own soul will be disposed to deny the entire radicalness of the propensity in question. It is not more incomprehensible than distinctive. There lives no man who at some period has not been tormented, for example, by an earnest desire to tantalize a listener by circumlocution. The speaker is aware that he displeases. He has every intention to please. He is usually curt, precise, and clear. The most laconic and luminous language is struggling for utterance upon his tongue. It is only with difficulty that he restrains himself from giving it flow. He dreads and deprecates the anger of whom he addresses, yet the thought strikes him that by certain involutions and parathinses this anger may be engendered. That single thought is enough. The impulse increases to a wish, the wish to a desire, the desire to an uncontrollable longing, and the longing to the deep regret and mortification of the speaker, and in defiance of all consequence, is indulged. We have a task before us which must be speedily performed. We know that it will be ruinous to make delay. The most important crisis of our life calls, trumpet-tongued, for immediate energy and action. We glow, we are consumed with eagerness to commence the work, with the anticipation of whose glorious result our whole souls are on fire. It must, it shall be undertaken today, and yet we put it off until tomorrow. And why? There is no answer except that we feel perverse, using the word with no comprehension of the principle. Tomorrow arrives, and with it a more impatient anxiety to do our duty, but with this very increase of anxiety arrives also a nameless, a positively fearful, because unfathomable craving for delay. This craving gathers strength as the moments fly. The last hour for action is at hand. We tremble with the violence of the conflict within us, of the definite with the indefinite, of the substance with the shadow. But if the contests have proceeded thus far, it is the shadow which prevails. We struggle in vain. The clock strikes, and is the knell of our welfare. At the same time, it is the chanticleer note to the ghost that has so long overawed us. It flies, it disappears. We are free. The old energy returns. We will labor now. Alas, it is too late. We stand upon the brink of a precipice. We peer into the abyss. We grow sick and dizzy. Our first impulse is to shrink from the danger. Unaccountably, we remain. By slow degrees, our sickness and dizziness and horror become merged in a cloud of unnameable feeling. By gradations, still more imperceptible, this cloud assumes shape, as did the vapor from the bottle out of which arose the genies in the Arabian Nights. But out of this our cloud upon the precipice's edge there grows into palpability, a shape, far more terrible than any genius or demon of a tale, and yet it is but a thought, although a fearful one, and one which chills the very marrow of our bones with the fierceness of the delight of its horror. It is merely the idea of what would be our sensations during the sweeping precipitancy of a fall from such a height. And this fall, this rushing annihilation, for the very reason that involves that one most ghastly and loathsome of all the most ghastly and loathsome images of death and suffering which have ever presented themselves to our imagination. For this very cause do we know now the most vividly desire it. And because our reason violently deters us from the brink, therefore do we the most impetuously approach it. There is no passion in nature so demoniacally impatient as that of him who, shuddering upon the edge of a precipice, thus meditates a plunge. To indulge for a moment in any attempt at thought is to be inevitably lost. For reflection but urges us to forbear, and therefore it is, I say, that we cannot. If there be no friendly arm to check us, or if we fail in a sudden effort to prostrate ourselves backward from the abyss, we plunge and we are destroyed. Examine these and similar actions as we will, we shall find them resulting solely from the spirit of the perverse. We perpetrate them merely because we feel that we should not. Behind or beyond there is no intelligible principle, and we might indeed deem this perverseness a direct instigation of the arch-fiend, were it not occasionally known to operate in furtherance of good. I have said thus much that in some measure I may answer your question, that I may explain to you why I'm here, that I may assign to you something that shall have at least the faint aspect of a cause for my wearing these fetters, and for my tenanting this cell of the condemned. Had I not been thus prolix, you might either have misunderstood me altogether, or with the rabble have fancied me mad. As it is, you will easily perceive that I am one of the many uncounted victims of the imp of the perverse. It is impossible that any deed could have been wrought with a more thorough deliberation. For weeks, for months, I pondered upon the means of the murder. I rejected 1,000 schemes because their accomplishment involved a chance of detection. At length, in reading some French memoirs, I found an account of a nearly fatal illness that occurred to Madame Pilau through the agency of a candle accidentally poisoned. The idea struck my fancy at once. I knew my victim's habit of reading in bed, I knew too that his apartment was narrow and ill ventilated. But I need not vex you with the impertinent details. I need not describe the easy artifices by which I substituted in his bedroom candle-stand a wax light with my own making for the one which I found there. The next morning he was discovered dead in his bed, and the coroner's verdict was death by the visitation of God. Having inherited his estate, all went well with me for years. The idea of detection never once entered my brain. Of the remains of the fatal taper I had myself carefully disposed. I have left no shadow of a clue by which it would be possible to convict or even suspect me of a crime. It is inconceivable how rich a sentiment of satisfaction arose in my bosom as I reflected upon my absolute security. For a very long period of time I was accustomed to revel in this sentiment. It afforded me more real delight than all the mere worldly advantages of accruing from my sin, but there arrived at length an epoch from which the pleasurable feeling grew, by scarcely perceptible gradations, into a haunting and harassing thought. It harassed because it haunted. I could scarcely get rid of it for an instant. It is quite a common thing to be thus annoyed with the ringing in our ears, or rather in our memories, of the burthen of some ordinary song, or some unimpressive snatches from an opera. Nor will we be the less tormented if the song in itself be good, or the opera air meritorious. In this manner, at last, I would perpetually catch myself pondering upon my security, and repeating in a low undertone the phrase, "I am safe." One day, whilst sauntering along the streets, I arrested myself in the act of murmuring half loud these customary syllables. In a fit of petulance I remodelled them thus: "I am safe, I am safe, yes, yes, if I be not fool enough to make open confession." No sooner had I spoken these words than I felt an icy chill creep to my heart. I had had some experience in these fits of perversity, whose nature has been seen at some trouble to explain, and I remembered well that in no instance had I successfully resisted their attacks. And now my own casual self-suggestion that I might possibly be fool enough to confess the murder of which I had been guilty confronted me, as if the very ghost of him who I had murdered, and beckoned me on to the death. At first I made an effort to shake off this nightmare of the soul. I walked vigorously, faster, still faster. At length I ran. I felt a maddening desire to shriek aloud. Every succeeding wave of thought overwhelmed me with a new terror, for alas, I too well understood that to think in my situation was to be lost. I still quickened my pace. I bounded like a madman through the crowded thoroughfares. At length the populace took the alarm and pursued me. I felt then the consummation of my fate. Could I have torn out my tongue, I would have done it, but a rough voice resounded in my ears. A rougher grasp seized me by the shoulder. I turned. I gasped for breath. For a moment I experienced all the pangs of suffocation. I became blind and deaf and giddy, and then some invisible fiend, I thought, struck me with his broad palm upon the back. The long imprisoned secret burst forth from my soul. They say that I spoke with a distinct enunciation, but with marked emphasis and passionate hurry, as if in dread of interruption before concluding the brief but pregnant sentences that consigned me to the hangman and to hell. Having related all that was necessary for the fullest judicial conviction, I fell prostrate in a swoon. But why shall I say more? Today I wear these chains, and am here. Tomorrow I shall be fettlerless. But where? Well, well, well. A lot of confessions. I thought at the beginning he was talking about procrastinators. I thought this sounds familiar. What a perverse little imp. Greetings from Sir Dunny. Yeah, bosom 20. We got there, Valeria. Or against self-interest. Alison, no. That in this instance, yeah. Oh, Jar Jar, I got big arms, but I can't have you all. But you're welcome to come to the Dad Club here. We have a theme for today, and that's snitching on oneself. It's true, actually. Yeah, two of the three stories. Not the oval portrait, I guess. That was about death, as was the poem. Oh. You're crying. I'm crying. I'm crying. Oh dear. Oh, my Poe I think Poe would have been a troll. Yeah. Was that candle thing also in Holmes's story? Maybe. I think it is in one of them, isn't it? I'm glad you're happy, Valeria. Bosom count up to 20. 7 today. That's pretty solid. 7 bosoms today. Wow. What's my favourite Poe work? Jar Jar. I've never read Poe before I started doing these streams. I know. Shock horror. Um, Behold, the fields have been bountiful, and the gods have blessed us with a fine harvest of breasts, terrors, and bosoms. Yeah, we'll do Sherlock Holmes. I do love a bit of Sherlock Holmes. Um, yeah. Oh dear, look at that yawn coming in. Mm. Poe was required English reading for your English degree. Where was that? They also made you read Shakespeare. Um, I am EP myself after bedtime stories. Um, Interesting. Interesting indeed. Um, I have to admit I'm not big on the poetry, but I'm trying to change that, I guess. I do like poems, but I just I have this type of memory. I can't remember what it's called, but I just don't retain some information like that. Like I can't remember movies. I can watch movies twice, 3 times, and like I might be the second time in going, oh, I have seen this before. All right, okay. Well, I'm glad that one made the memory bank. Um, oh, falling asleep while reading and making it as you go along. Yeah, why not? You need at least 5 years before rewatches, otherwise you remember. There'll be no rehearsal tomorrow. It's just a tech setup, just to make sure the Wi-Fi is going to handle it. Um, that's cool. DIY Enchantress. Yeah, cool. Mary Oliver. Yeah. Well, the stream will just be checking. There's not going to be no action happening tomorrow. Um, Absolutely, they're important. Uh, Checking 1 2 mic drop. Mic 1 2 1 2. Oh, look at that! Some love going around in chat tonight. Nothing is ever pointless like that, Minty. It makes you who you are. um, I didn't. The dog came to me. Um, why have you read Hussite trilogy from Sapkowski? I have not, but I should probably. Um, well, maybe that could be a post story, prickly triangle. All right. Should you make pizza or brown butter miso braised conehead cabbage soup? Oh my god, that sounds very convoluted and I don't know. I mean, is it fresh pizza? You're gonna make the dough Monster Heart? You're gonna um. Could I read some Pride and Prejudice? Really? You want me to? I mean, Imogen Mogg. I don't know if I'm a fan. Pre-made though, valid. That's easy then, isn't it? Read Lord of the Rings to Logan. I I could do bedtime story for Logan. Still in copyright though, isn't it? Thanks, Ziggy Wiggy. Favorite romance book then? I don't know if it's romance, but I liked it very much. Memoirs of a Geisha. That had me crying. Yeah. And also, oh my God, Cider House Rules. That's pretty hard, but like that was a book that I didn't want to finish. Do you ever had that? Like the Cider House Rules and then Skinny Legs and All. Two books. I literally had like 35 to 50 pages left, and I put them down for like 2 weeks because I liked them so much. I didn't want to finish them. It was painful knowing it was coming to an end. Um, yeah, yeah. AO3 bedtime stories. We will. They might need they might need some decoding first though. Um, Hello, candid cryptids. Um, First time chat. Thanks for coming on. Um, no, hang on, no, but Rayumi, I mean, it was I couldn't finish it because it was so good. Uh, like I liked the book so much, I didn't want it to finish. Um, I mean, I've got books that I definitely haven't finished. House of Leaves. Okay. Um, yeah. There's books I wish I hadn't finished. Mm, um, won't finish. Story never ends. Um, Jar Jar. How would you describe the? I don't know. I'm not sure. We've got time to go into that, but maybe that's a question for. Maybe that could be a question for another time. Can you save that one? Because I don't. I'm. It's already 10:40. I'm not trying to brush that off, but that's a lot of layers. Um, I'm still voting for Princess Bridge. Absolutely, I love Princess Bridge too. Oh no, sorry, Prince's Bride, Princess Bride, Princess Printer's Guide, the Printer's Guide. Oh, I love the Printer's Guide. It's my favorite book. Um, The Never-Ending Story. Another one I haven't read. I know, so many books. And nobody's asking me which book I wish I hadn't finished. I felt like all the good parts are in the movie, the rest is unnecessary. Oh, that's harsh. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Thank you, Jolly Han. Um, Anna Karenina. I thought it was going to change. You know, after about page 200, I was like, all right, give it a chance. And then after about page 400, I was like, okay, I've got this far. And that was the last book that I ever finished that I regretted. And since then, I have not finished, I don't know, probably about 7 or 8 books. Because I was like, I'm not enjoying this, wasting my time. I'm not carrying on. Anna Karenina Jajadi. Sorry, Alison, it's not for everyone. No, the movie was trash. My opinion. Sorry. Same reasons. Um, Love's a tangent. It wasn't about the tangents. It was about the same thing all the time. Just get on with it, right? I don't mind long-winded. I read Dickens. It's fine. But like the story goes somewhere, whether it's but with Anna Karenina, it's just like, okay, you're in this thing, it's not working, it's still not working, it's carrying on not working, it's not working, it's not working, it's not working, it's not working. And then you're like, all right, just get on with it. Just admit it. Yeah, well then, well, it could have been 10 pages long. He could have done it in about the same time. I mean, Poe could have done it in 20 pages, and you'd have got the gist of it. Do you know what I mean? All right, Mego. Enjoy the video games. I think we're going to finish up anyway. Um, I'm going to say goodnight, guys. Ooh, mm, thank you. I will feel better. I will. I got some more garlic to take. See you tomorrow at 1 o'clock for some cooking. Make some kartoffel soup. We're gonna make some potato soup. Good night, y'all. Bye, Bumblebee. First time chat. Bye bye. Thank you. Bye. Good night.